Thank you very much, media houses, for this particular press conference that we're doing as a Community Empowerment for Progress organization with regard to the developments that are taking place in the University of Juba between the administration of the university and with the students. We are all aware that for the past period there were a bit of friction between the leadership of the university and the students in terms of tuition fees, in terms of also students expressing their concern about the economical crisis. And we are aware that the latest development, Juba University, was triggered by the increase of tuition fees by the Juba University, which the university increased as a response to the economical situation. In return of that, the students went for strike. So a decision was made by the university after that strike. And this is what we're addressing as a Community Empowerment for Progress organization, as a CEPO. So we feel that the administration of Juba University dismissing 13 students and suspending 15 others with a heavy financial penalty of about 50,000 SSP per student, this particular development that has happened or have been taken by Juba University, we as a Community Empowerment for Progress organization are seriously concerned about the decision of the Juba University. Our concern comes that the concept of dismissing students in the principle of education is a last resort. And normally we feel that when students are to be dismissed from an institution like institution of higher learning is normally when the university were able to prove evidence that these students are waging a war against peace and the stability of the country. But as a common practice, institution of higher learning students normally express their concerns. And secondly, fall within the constitutional right of the students that they as a citizens, they have rights. And of course, we are aware that also they have responsibilities to safeguard their rights. So I as a community as CEPO, the executive director of Community Empowerment Progress Organization, as Edimon, I feel that the decision of the Juba University, it's a decision that I can characterize it. It is aggressive, it is harsh, and it lacks sense of tolerance. Because we believe an institution of learning is supposed to have sense of tolerance. So, therefore, as executive director of CEPO, I'm calling upon the administration of Juba University to reconsider the decision of dismissing 13 students and with this heavy penalty. We believe that the students have a civic responsibility to play in the university premises, and this is enshrined within their constitutional right. Yes, the students might have done mistakes, but they can be disciplined in a responsible manner, in the sense where we feel tolerance is being exercised, in the sense where we feel that they cannot lose their academic qualification or their academic aspirations, because we feel that these 13 students constitute a future human resource for South Sudan. The question we have in mind and the question we have before the leadership of the country, and specifically before the Minister of Higher Education, is that these 13 students, what does it mean to the human resource development of this country? We are losing human resource. As a nation level, we're also losing human resource as families that have invested behind these 13 students and these 15 students. So having 28 students facing that challenge, we feel is something unacceptable. The nation is losing, at the same time the families of these students are losing. Their best way we can mitigate with this issue, though we believe that the students have committed a mistake. As I said, I'm a student of Juba University. I graduated from Juba University. We have met incidents in Juba University worse than this incident that we have been seeing now, and we are not being dismissed. We have been finding a best way to mitigate our differences. Some of our students were suspended in terms of terms. Some of them are not allowed to sit one term as a punishment so that their colleagues can go ahead. They are left behind to come with other colleagues. Some of them are given hard time in a way that they are asked, like, you can sit any F you obtain, we will dismiss you for that as a threat, and they concentrate. Instead of thinking about too many strikes, they become more academic focused. So my appeal to Juba University that this is an institution of academic learning, is a high institution, is an institution where we express challenges, is an institution where we practice democracy. So shouldn't be strikes in Juba University by the students should be taken political and should not be used for hindering the human resource development in this country. So in a respective manner and in a very kindly manner, we are urging His Excellency President as a Chancellor of all universities to intervene on this issue, and we believe that his intervention will rescue this country from losing these 28 students whom I think they constitute a very huge human resource. Clashes between the students and the Juba University should not be something that jeopardizes the human rights development of our country, because the human resource development that we have behind these 13 dismissed students and 15 punished students is vital for the future of our country. So it's a high time that our nation, various institutions like universities, should start developing a spirit of tolerance for practice of democracy. Because if you want to practice democratic principle, they need to have tolerance. That claim, remember, we claimed for the last 21 years that we want to be a democratic state, and we challenged Sudan until we obtain independence. But that have never made us to lose students during that time. Why now we find ourselves having problem? So as a CEPO and as executive director of CEPO, we are calling upon the Ministry of Higher Education and the Office of President to intervene on this issue. And we're raising this as an alarm that if this is not sorted out in the urgent way, these may force or may oblige us to really raise a legal case against the decision taken by the University of Juba. And as I'm speaking by you now, we have already reached a law firm that is ready to take this decision of the university to a court, because we believe it is not convincing that you dismiss 13 students for whatever the reason is. You can discipline them in a better way, and it's not reasonable for you to punish 28 students that heavy financial penalty for what gain. Finally, CEPO, with due respect, is urging the leadership of the Juba University to reconsider the decision of dismissing and this big number of students. It is a loss to the nation and to the families of those students. But also, this decision demonstrates that the University of Juba is not up to standard of being a center of academic engagement with high observation of tolerance. Up to here, thank you very much. If there's a questions, they are most welcome. Yes.
Yes, Gila Junior from Juba University. I have two questions here. One, under what circumstances do you think students should be dismissed from the University of Juba? Two, have you sought a dialogue with the university and the student to bring them together so that they agree before going to court? Three, do CEPO legal basis to sue the university, Juba University, for dismissing this student? Thank you.
Okay. Let me respond to this, and then I will get the other ones. One, with regard on what circumstances can students be dismissed, I would like to give you my life experience. I'm a student in Juba University. I graduated at the University of Learning. We have done incidents as a reaction, and not reaction to tuition fees. I remember we have been forced to dress an Islamic uniform, and we are Christian students, and went to the level that we are able to burn a lab, computer lab. I've never seen any one of us behind that incident was dismissed, but some of us were suspended from a particular term as a punishment. So our colleagues have gone ahead, and some of us were detained behind, because by the concept of education is that once a person is in institution of high learning, you need to do the all-level best as a responsible institution to build up this person to become a successful person. And one of the legacy is that some of us who are by then notorious are now proud that they have become people responsible, because by then they have lecturers and university leadership that have never taken their misconduct in the premise of the university a negative. They have taken it as an opportunity of empowering them, and today they become leaders that they're speaking out to the public. That's one thing that's why the concept of dismissal in learning of high institution is not something that really I agree. What I agree is that a student can be discontinued because of his academic performance, not because of him challenging decisions in the premises. So the only condition can discontinue a student or dismiss a student, it is a student's own making in terms of academic performance. The moment you don't meet the threshold of academic standard, that dismiss you, which we don't blame anybody for it. That's what I like to say, that's circumstances. But the strikes, and I remember some of the lecturers who are now dean in the current University of Juba, which this decision come from a dean's meeting, that have made this meeting. I will share with you, I grew up in Haisora. I was born in Haisora. I grew up in the university. I know some of them who have made this decision were Bandeni students. And I remember during the time they were able to make a strike where Sudan Armed Force Bandeni were able to take 6 tanks for 1 full month in the University of Juba. 6 tanks in the University of Juba, in the premises where it is now. They were not dismissed. Why should they remember their time when they caused chaos? They are not dismissed. Why are they now dismissing the students? I'm quite sure most of us who have gone to premises of university have undergone these processes. It's a generational practices, and I'm quite sure some of them have been doing the similar strike the students have done, and by then they were not dismissed. Why now they're in the leadership they're dismissing people who have done something they have done before? That's one thing I'd like to say. In terms of court, we feel court is not first as a priority, as we have raised. We have appealed to the Minister of Higher Education to take this issue to the Council of Ministers. Upcoming meeting within this week. We have appealed for His Excellency President as a Chancellor to intervene on this issue. That's the room. Until when we don't get a feedback for these conditions we have given, that's why court become a last resort that we can go for it. That we can talk over that. The question is, do we have legal legitimacy to take this decision to court? Yes, from principle of human rights, from the Bill of Rights, which enshrine our constitution, when any one of these rights is violated, any citizen that have a legal identity, we are legal registered entity organization per the laws of South Sudan, so we can question any decision that once we explore all the possible options, like what we have raised now, press conference to raise a dialogue, secondly to urge the Ministry of Higher Education take to the Council of Ministers, urging the President. If we explore all those remedies and those remedies have not yielded the results we want, then the last resort is to go to court. And what we can do is we can approach one law firm, which is a registered law firm. We can approach the law firm with this to say, look here, we are concerned with this particular decision of the university. We need this decision to be tested in the court. Per the Advocates Act of South Sudan, any law firm that is registered for advocacy can take any decision as appeal. So we'll appeal for a law firm, then this law firm will take this case to court, and the law firm have the right to do that. And nobody can obstruct the law firm from doing that. Like we have done this for so many cases. We have seen this happening when the issue of the states were not been there. We make a petition that has been put to the Supreme Court. We're waiting for the outcome for that. But we feel this one also we can have the right. But obviously, court is not the first resort. The first resort is that we raise it up as a concern to the Council of Ministers, to the leadership to intervene. And we will also notify the university that we are disturbed. This statement will show the university we are disturbed over these issues. This will say as a legal background. So I would say with all options, per the laws of South Sudan, we have all the mandate to question this decision in a court of law if the first remedies that we have made as an appeal through this press conference never yield the results. But one thing that we cannot compromise with, the concept of dismissing students. We make sure these students must go back to their classes. They can be punished in another way rather than discontinuing them from learning. This is a loss to the nation. It's a loss to their families.
As we speak now, these students, they have raised emotions that they are going to sue the university for dismissing them. As a CEPO, are you going to help them?
Obviously, as an issue of rights, if they take a step that they are suing the university and they need legal aid, which is a legal assistance, we'll take that responsibility. Because as I said, that the concept of dismissal is what disturbs us. They can be disciplined in another way around. So as if they can sue the university, they're going to court, we are ready. And I'm quite sure that we have a law firms in this country. And the reason why we have law firms, so that the law firms will test the use and the application of the laws. So we need to check on what basis really the university have made this decision. And remember, this is not a chancellor's decision. This is a decision of the dean's meeting. So it's a deans of the colleges meeting that have made this decision. So it's a complete decision of the university without any excuse. And besides them, we're faculty of law, which we're quite sure we have legal experts within the deanship of the Juba University that have made this decision, and there's a legal advisor. They might have done their all evidence that these students should be dismissed. But from an educational practice point of view, dismiss of a student is not an option completely. You can discipline the students in another way around, but you can't dismiss them.
Okay, you said you were a former student of Juba University, and the students have been dismissed and others suspended for addressing their issues not in a better way. Perhaps that is why they got dismissed. Maybe to them, as you, Edmond Yakani, what can you tell them as a piece of advice, maybe on how they can address their issues?
Normally, I used to say, as you say you have your right, you have responsibility to safeguard your rights. And part of your responsibility is to ensure you are not doing any havoc for anybody to come to the space you are in the future generation. Like, for example, I regretted that during our time, we were able to ban a computer lab. How much money was being used for that computer lab that we banned? Which I don't think is something that I will admire and I will promote it to happen. So it means if the students are demanding their rights. They should put in their mind that they have responsibility to safeguard their rights. And part of their responsibility is to be peaceful. Part of their responsibility is not to be destructive. Part of their responsibility is not to harm any person, whether being a student or being a lecturer or being whoever. What they are supposed to do is that this is an institution of academic learning. During our time, what we do is that is an institution of academic learning. So also we demonstrate our characters that we are in a high learning institution. We are not in the streets. So we behave like people who are in the premises of high learning, that you demonstrate yourself with a dialogue, with a lot of conversation, or even what do we do during our time is that if we feel we cannot convince the administration of the university, we go and buy for ourselves padlocks. And we lock the gate of either the chancellor or we lock the gate of the academic affairs secretary, and we lock whenever we don't beat him, we don't destroy him, we don't ban anything, but we lock his office with our own padlock. We say, look here, we can open the office until we dialogue. And the idea that this padlock is to promote dialogue between us and them to reach an amicable solution. That's the way we're doing. So my advice to the Juba University is that don't take any challenges which is an academic challenge for political gain. And my advice is that so the students in the Juba University who are politically motivated, where I know they need to practice their politics, they need to exercise their political rights, but make sure that you exercise them with responsibility attached. Among the responsibility, be peaceful, don't be violent, don't be destructive. And also number 2 is that care about others, because whatever you do in the university, it will affect generation to come. Like now we're advocating for them to go back to their classes, because we know what does it mean in the generation they're in. If time comes that the generation to become leaders, there will be a gap in that generation. And that's also if they destroy the premises and everything in the university, they destroy for the generations to come. Again, they create another gap. So they have not done different thing from what the university have done against them. So for me, this particular incident should be an incident of public outcry, that students should behave well, responsibly. They should care about the university is also a facility for generations to come. And the leaders of the university need to care that dismissing these 13 students, it's actual by itself. It's a harm to the nation, it's a harm to their families, because their families have invested behind them with huge money to where they are now. So it's better to let us find a best way of how to handle this case.
Yeah, Executive Director, you mentioned earlier that you have some conditions that you have put in place. You call on the President to intervene and the Minister of Higher Education to intervene. Then you said after all these conditions, if they fail to meet these conditions, you're going to sue the university. But we understand when you want to sue someone, you must have an evidence. You have a clear evidence to sue the university.
One, they have made a decision. They have made a decision, and among the decision is that they dismissed the students. They give financial penalty. So in terms of our legal basis, where are we basing our legal basis? We're basing our legal basis that one, the concept of dismissing students because of expressing themselves in a strike, that does not justify for you to dismiss a student. That you can think of another best option to go with it. And the financial penalty that they have laid on these students, this financial penalty, with the, if they increase, here is a logic. Here is a logic that we need to raise it. If they increase the tuition fees because of the economical crisis, and they start imposing financial penalty on these students, as they know the country in economical crisis, the question is, are you not technically also dismissing them by giving them heavy financial penalty that they cannot obtain it? In another round, it's actually not dismissal of 13, it's a dismissal of 28. By imposing heavy financial penalty that the student cannot access it as a denial for them not to access rooms. So, when the university increases the tuition fees, they are responding to economical crisis. That's the justification of the university, isn't? But also when the students strike against the decision is because of the economical crisis. So the nutshell is that the university is feeling the economical pinch, the students are feeling the economical pinch. So the best way is not to discontinue a student that have wasted almost 9 years and the family have invested behind the student to be dismissed because of a strike that has happened. You can have a better way to do that. That's what I'm saying. In the university, the only condition for dismissal is when the students perform below expectation and he get discontinued automatically because of his performance, not simply because of expressing his opinion. Secondly, what they have done is they're expressing their opinion. And it's one of the Bill of Rights principle that every South Sudanese have the right to express her or his own opinion on the situation. But they have expressed in that way. So if we define that way as a violent, there's another way we can discipline them, not dismissing them. Because the concept of dismissal from educational point of view, it is something, a last resort, unacceptable. And you can't have a bunch of just big number of students to kick them off. What human resource are we losing as a nation? What human resource are we losing to the families that have invested on these students? So our evidence that we're going to establish is that this decision, we feel it is not in compliance with the concept of education. And if you go to the Bill of Rights, there are quite a number of articles in the Bill of Rights that will make us to challenge this decision of the university in the court of law. So we use the Bill of Rights. So it's now it's become a cross-examine of lawyers that will stand for this case to go, and will put our lawyers against this case not to be right. So if this decision have a lawyer that justifies this decision is right, he can stand in the court as a lawyer that stand that we have evidence for why this decision is right, and we can place another lawyer who will stand to justify why this decision is not right with evidence. And the Bill of Rights have empowered us on that. So for me, that's the background, and that's why I'm saying it's a last resort. The best is let the Minister of Higher Education take this issue to the Council of Ministers in the upcoming meeting of the Council of Ministers. Should be discussed, and let the Council of Ministers think about the implications of losing this big number of human resources in the country. And what does this mean from the leadership of the country, the families of these students, that leadership of the country allow such number to go? What implication are we causing for the investments the family have done behind these students? And one thing that education is known for turning something negative to positive. Why is the role of Juba University in turning that negative practice of the students to positive? That tomorrow the students say, we are proud of Juba University, we could have lost it, but then we are chaotic. But as I said, I'm a student of Juba University. I'm one of the chaotic students of Juba University. But today, I can praise my lecturers. I can praise them because they were able to stick behind me and made me to who I am today. Otherwise, I could have been a criminal, I could have been either a warlord causing havoc in this country, destroying, looting, or even planning landmines. But now, today, we're doing positive work simply because you have lecturers who know how to work with you and how to bring you up as a responsible person.
So, yes, as a cabinet mechanic, I have two questions. One, so what is the cost of this dismissal of 13 students at the university? What is the cost of the issue? And then, what is your call to the university administration or to the president, who is the sense of the university, in this point of dismissal of the
students? One, we are aware that per the letter of the Juba University, and we have been following this because we did our own survey. The main root cause was the university increased tuition fees, and the students resist the increase of the tuition fees. That's the reason. So when they resist, they went on strike, and when they're on strike, that's where the university said these students have been making strikes throughout, and they justify that these students are notorious in the compound. The only way is to dismiss them. Which we, as an organization, our position is that how much students in institution of academic learning like Juba University, how notorious they are, they can't be dismissed, but they can be modeled, they can be punished in another constructive way that will allow them to pursue their learning, because tomorrow they may end up acting the best leaders that, as we see them in the premises today, as notorious. They may tomorrow become the best potential cadres of this country that will take this country to the South Sudan that we want, than dismissing them. That's why we contribute that. Our call in this press conference is that, first, we're calling for the Minister of Higher Education. This case is a result of economical crisis. The university is facing economical crisis by increasing tuition fees. The students are facing economical crisis by rejecting the increase of tuition fees. We feel the Minister of Higher Education should take this issue to the next meeting of the Council of Ministers and raise it up there. And the Council of Ministers should revisit this decision of Juba University. And our call particularly to Juba University, that they need to reconsider the principle of dismissal. Instead of dismissing, let them punish them in another way around. Either tell them you miss one term or you wait for another academic year, then continue, so as to become a discipline than discontinuing a person from an educational point of view. Our appeal to the president as a chancellor of university is that he should intervene on this issue. Us losing 13 students and us giving a stress to 15 students by heavy financial penalty, it's not something acceptable. The Bill of Rights have given us the freedom to express ourselves whenever we feel we are discontented with the decision. And these students are discontented with the increase of tuition fees, they have expressed themselves. And if they have expressed themselves violently, that does not completely mount for a decision for them to be dismissed or to be heavily financially punished. No, that's unacceptable. So what we're saying is that as an organization, we are calling for a reverse of the decision of the Juba University, and a better alternative should be used for punishing these students rather than dismissing them or giving this heavy financial penalty. That's the appeal that we're making, and wish that the coming Council of Ministers should really have a decision on this issue and make it better, because the nation is losing, the families of these students are losing, and the families have invested behind them. They didn't come to Juba University free. No, families have invested. Can we recognize the investment of the family at the hard time that they were able to make the students reach the premises of Juba University? I hope I've answered.